It's it's round about that time again. I'm going to do my upsets predictions for UFC 303, and then once I'm done doing my upsets predictions, I am going to basically give you the locks that I have, or are the picks that I feel significantly confident about on on this whole entire card. So stick around until the end for that. Um, yeah. So should I wait for people to come on? Um, yeah, maybe let me wait a little bit for people to come online. My channel is on 9,900 and something subscribers. I'd like to thank all of you, but I'll do a stream for that specifically. So yeah, let me get to the upsets predictions. The first fight on the card is Ricky Simone versus Vinicius Oliveira. Ricky Simone is a minus 225 moderate favorite, and Vinicius Oliveira is a plus 185 slight underdog. Um, do I think an upset is possible here? Yeah, it is. I mean, Oliveira is on a three-fight win streak, right? Oliveira has power. He's a decent striker, but I think his abilities are dangerous. He's dangerous basically in the first round. Beyond the first round, I mean, he starts to slack off. And I feel like Ricky Simon is very durable. It's not very easy to finish him. Um, but ultimately, it's MMA so unpredictable. So I can't necessarily overlook the fact that like he has power, and that's something very significant. So an upset is possible here, but I mean, Ricky Simone is really decent. I don't want to say good, but he's really decent when it comes to striking, and I feel like he can mix everything up like very well enough to actually get the decision. And I think it's understandable why he's a favorite here. So an upset is possible, but I am not very confident it's going to happen. I don't think that, I'm not confident that an upset is going to happen here, but I mean it is possible, but the possibility is not very high. My official pick and my subscribers' official pick here is. I'm not gonna answer that, my dude. I've been trolled before, and these kind of random questions, I know them. Anyway, on to the next one: Carlos Hernandez versus Ray Tsuruya. Carlos Hernandez is a plus 310 moderate underdog, and Ray Tsuruya is a minus 400 heavy favorite. That's crazy. I actually didn't think people would actually be this high on this kid. My subscribers and I went with Ray Tsuruya largely because I also feel like if there are very few picks on this particular card that I feel a bit confident on, Ray Tsuruya is one of them. My follow my live analysis, you know the what I feel about. I promise it's not a troll. I'm making a challenge for myself to ask every person live right now. Yeah, I like sandwiches, man. Um, what a random question. Um, so my biggest issue with Ray Turuya is the fact that number one, he's untested, and number two, a lot of the fighters who come from Asian fighters, a lot of them, have all the skill to actually win a fight. Like for example, last week, I felt like was it Kyung Hong Ko, Kyung Hong. I'm sorry if I'm messing up that name, Kyung Hong Ko. Um, he was supposed to dominate that fight, but for whatever reason he didn't. And that happens frequently. And I'm talking about my personal experience when it comes to predictions. Like I've seen and I've looked at fighters, and I felt like this dude should actually dominate this particular fight, and they come into the fight and they look like crap, you know. Um, my hair is visiting. It went on vacation. So he's Ray Tsuruya is one of my most confident picks on this card. There aren't that many, but I'm worried about the fact that he's fairly untested. But my official pick, as we'll just have to see if I'm right on this particular one. On to the next one. Um, Andrei Arlovsky versus Martin Buday. Andrei Arlovsky is a plus 225 moderate underdog, and Martin Buday is a minus 218 moderate favorite. My subscribers and I went with Martin Buday. Do I think an upset is possible here? Actually, I didn't answer this particular question in the previous fight. I don't know. I think an upset is possible in the previous fight between Carlos and Ray. However, I don't think the possibility of it happening is high. I actually think it's the possibility of an upset is very low. The only concern I have is because like I haven't seen him against high level competition, which is one of the issues that I have with MVP. But I'll get to it when I once I start speaking about MVP. For now, I'm just going to speak about this. So I don't think an upset is possible. I think Ray Zuruya is potentially going to be a lock. But I'll discuss that once I'm done with these particular upsets predictions, basically. But yeah, I don't think an upset is possible. Martin Buday versus Andrei Arlovsky. I mean, technically, in my opinion, I think Andrei Arlovsky is the better fighter um, of the two. However, he is very very old, right? I think he's something like 45 years old, and even in the heavyweight division, that's not great, you know. I honestly, because as you get older, I think people don't understand this. It's not like a criticism, or it's not like we're bagging on older people, but the older you get, you become a little bit more brittle. You know, like it's easy for you to break something, even when you're walking, let alone when you're fighting. You know, you become a little bit more chinny, which means like almost anything can knock you out. So there are a couple of things that you take into consideration. Skill for skill, I think Andrei Arlovsky is a little bit better, but it's Conor McGregor or Stipe Miocic. I don't know, man. So it's a little bit challenging to actually um, feel like he's going to come in there and actually perform at his peak. But I mean, we've seen Chris Weidman or Chris Eidman come in there and look incredible in the fights. So maybe, especially because USADA is gone, I mean, Andrei Arlovsky might come in there and look like he's 30 years old, you know, because of some few supplements. I mean, I don't know, but unless that happens, I don't see him winning this particular fight. I think he's too old. And of the two, I don't think Martin Buday is going to be the one to gas out first. So, in all honesty, I honestly don't see an upset happening here. If it does, I think Martin Buday should be cut from the UFC, because how do you lose to a 45-year-old? You know, so I don't think an upset is possible here. So yeah, on to the next one. Um, Michelle Watterson Gomez versus Gillian Robertson. Michelle Watterson is a plus 165 slight underdog, and Gillian Robertson is a minus 200 moderate favorite. Um, my subscribers and I went with Gillian Robertson. I normally advise my subscribers and everyone who watches my live videos to do MMA, women's MMA, basically because it's unpredictable, and I will repeat this every single live that I do. Women's MMA is unpredictable, number one, because it goes to a decision a lot of the time, and usually it's split decisions. And if you're going to put your money on, depending, because you are going to basically rely on the judges to actually make a decision when it concerns your money, then I mean you're playing with fire, because judges, like, there's so many robberies that happen on a weekly basis that it wouldn't be smart to actually invest in women's MMA. So my general opinion when it comes to women's MMA is just avoid them, because sometimes they look like world beaters, and then in the next fight they look like they shouldn't even be in the UFC. So I have to do these predictions because obviously it's a prediction channel, it's an analysis channel, so I have to ultimately do like predictions for every single fight. Otherwise, I would just give you my locks every single week and just not do like full card predictions. But yeah, I honestly don't advise anyone to actually invest anything into women's MMA unless if you like playing with your money. But yeah, I think I've highlighted who's the favorite. Gillian Robertson is the favorite. I mean, she should win. I mean, Michelle Watterson Gomez is old now. I think she's like 39 or 40 or something like that. And in women's MMA, it's like being 45, in my opinion. The only person who's ever looked good at that age is Holly Holm. I haven't seen anyone else. Um, I mean, Gomez is a little bit. I mean, Watterson actually is a little bit like she's good on the feet. She's not very easy to take down, but like I said, she's old, so a lot of things are going to be possible. She probably will guess out a little bit more earlier than Gillian Roberts to a finish. So, in my opinion, this should end in a finish in a submission. I think. I also think Gillian Robertson is not that bad on the feet. I think live on the feet and actually mix everything up in order to either get a submission or at the very least to get a decision, right? So my official pick and my subscribers' official pick is Gillian Robertson. But like I said, I mean, putting money on women's MMA is like playing with fire. If you want to play with fire, just prepare to get burned. It's your money at the end of the day. On to the next one. Before I move on, is an upset possible here? I mean, it's women's MMA, so it is possible. It's a coin flip. Even if I feel very confidently that Gillian Robertson is going to win this one, I will still say it's a coin flip. On to the next one. Peyton Talbot versus Yanis Gemori. Peyton Talbot is a minus 1,600 huge favorite. Damn. Yanis Gemori is a plus 800 huge underdog. I wonder who. There was someone who, when I was doing my reaction to, and they were like, "Give me one person that you feel confidently about is who is going to win," and I said Peyton Talbot. I wonder how much of a favorite he was on Monday when I actually gave that person that particular prediction, because a proper research on these particular fights, but I knew that Peyton would actually win this one. So I wonder who that was. I wonder if they actually put money on it, and I wonder how much of one person on this particular card that I feel confidently about. It's Peyton. Peyton is definitely going to win this, and it probably won't get to a decision. I mean, Yanis is not that bad, but I feel like Peyton is very difficult to get down. And if Yanis cannot get this fight there's no way he wins this one. And like Peyton is very difficult to get down. So I don't see him winning this one. This is definitely a lock. Although, I mean, anyway, there's no upset here. Um, my subscribers and I obviously went with Peyton Talbot. On to the next one. Charles Jourdain versus Gene Silva. Wow! Charles Jourdain is a minus 130 slight favorite, and Gene Silva is a plus 110 near even. This is crazy for me. I wonder what people are seeing that I'm not seeing, right? Because based on what I'm looking at, Gene Silva should dominate this fight. Whether it's on the feet or on the ground, I feel like Gene Silva is supposed to dominate this fight. Maybe there's something that I'm not noticing, that I'm not seeing, but I've done so much research on these particular fights. Like, so lately, I do a lot of research, especially because I want my live predictions and analysis and upsets and everything like that to be informative and to be as helpful as possible to the people who watch them. So I do so much research, and I'm almost confident that Gene Silva is going to dominate this fight. If anything, he's probably going to get a finish here. So an upset for me, it's highly possible. My subscribers and I are split on this one. My subscribers feel like Charles Jourdain is going to win, while I picked Gene Silva. So that's why I'm wondering what people are seeing in Charles Jourdain. Maybe it's because of the experience, maybe it's because of the reversals in his last couple of fights that have made people feel like, man, this guy can actually win almost any fight, you know. But I honestly don't see him winning this fight. But this is also another pick that I'm a little bit wary about, largely because of the untestedness. I mean, how many fights has Gene Silva had in the UFC? I think it's like one or two, something like that, you know. So that's the one thing that concerned me. That concerns me a lot about picking Gene Silva. Um, but yeah, this is one of the few picks that I feel a little bit confident about. I don't think Charles Jourdain is going to win this fight. Yeah, if maybe he isn't training from fighting nerds like the gym fighting nerds, maybe I would be a little bit concerned because of his experience. But there's so many talented prospects in that particular gym. People like Carlos, people like who's that guy who fights at middleweight? I forgot his name. There are a couple of really talented prospects in that gym, so I'm not very worried about him not having enough experience in the UFC because I know he has high level training in his camp. So I'm pretty confident he's going to win this one, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. On to the next one, Cub Swanson versus Andre Fili. Cub Swanson is a plus 160 slight underdog, and Andre Tachi Fili is a minus 190 slight favorite. Um, this is a tricky one because, in my opinion, Cub Swanson is the better fighter. It's the situation with Andrei Arlovsky for me, right? Because Cub Swanson is the better fighter, but he is 40 years old fighting at which weight class? Whatever weight class this is. I mean, like it's featherweight. Yeah, he's fighting at featherweight at 40 years old. I mean, that's not good, man. It's honestly not good. It's kind of challenging to actually predict this one because even though he's fighting at featherweight, I mean, an upset is potentially possible. I view this fight as a coin flip. I think it could go either way. It depends on who shows up on that particular night. Andre Fili has to try and grapple as much as possible. I think if he tries to stand, especially in the first round, it's gonna be a problem. And I think, but I mean, look at Jose Aldo. You know, he came in there and beat a young prospect, and he's like, I don't know, 37 years old. You know, and he's fighting at bantamweight. Am I wrong? Yeah, I think he's fighting at bantamweight, and he looked incredible in that particular fight. So who's to tell how Cub Swanson is going to look in this particular fight? So I think it's a coin flip for me. But my official pick and my subscribers' official pick is um, Andre Fili. Who's a UFC casual? Will Connor take O'Malley's main event at the Sphere? I don't think Conor McGregor is going to take anyone's main event, man. I think the UFC favors for him. Anyway, on to the next one. Joe Pyfer versus Mark Andre Barrios. Joe Pyfer is a minus, and Mark Andre is a plus 210 moderate underdog. Here's another one. This one is a little bit tricky as well because I mean Joe Pyfer has power, Joe Pyfer has skill, but we've seen that Joe Pyfer does not have cardio, which is something that Marc Andre Barrios has, right? Um, which and Marc Andre is a bit more durable. I think he can take a couple of shots, and I feel like he's decent defensively on the feet and on the ground. So I think this is leaning more towards Joe Pfeiffer. Hopefully, he's learned his lesson in his last fight and he has actually worked on his cardio. My subscribers and I picked Joe Pfeiffer. Do I think an upset is possible here? Definitely. I think this is a coin flip as well. I think it could go either way. I wouldn't be shocked at like an upset here, but I'm leaning more towards Joe Pfeiffer. On to the next one. Ian Machado Gary versus Michael Venom Page. Ian even, and Michael Venom Page is a plus 100 near even as well. Ian Machado Gary, and I will say Machado Gary, and I will say this initially when I did my there's an airplane flying over, so I'm sorry if maybe I'm not audible enough, but it's passing. Anyway, initially when I did my early predictions, I said that I think Michael Venom Page is going to win this fight, but I looked at it a little bit closely. And I realized that my opinion is largely based on his performance against Kevin Holland. And I don't know how much of that I should take seriously because Kevin Holland normally does not take anything seriously, you know. So Page performance is sensational, or was it because Kevin Holland didn't adequately prepare? You know, because I mean, he's even coined himself the gatekeeper. You know, and if someone is calling themselves like the gatekeeper, uh, I mean, that person has no title aspirations, and also mindset plays a role into how someone performs. That's how people can get upsets, or that's how people can go from being dominated the whole fight. The Leon Edwards versus Kamaru Usman fight, you know, that's how champions are born. You know, you could be losing the entire fight. Alex Pereira versus Israel Adesanya. Alex Pereira was losing that first fight, and he knocked Israel Adesanya out in the last round. Similarly with Leon Edwards, that's how champions are born, you know, with mindset. So it doesn't seem like Kevin Holland has that, and I'm basing a lot of my opinion on his performance against Kevin Holland. So for me, it was a little bit people don't like him. We can't argue that he is good at what he does. And he can manage distance. He's a decent striker. And now having moved and training from shoot that box, he's going to improve his ground game, which people don't know. But if you watch his fights outside of the UFC, Ian Gary was using his wrestling, and now I'm sure it's improving significantly because he's training with people like Charles Oliveira. You know, so he might come into this fight and actually grapple. I wouldn't be shocked if Ian Gary gets a submission here because a lot of people are not even expecting that to happen. But he can actually wrestle. I mean, he's not Hamza Chimaev or anything like that. But I mean, against Michael Venom Page, who doesn't have that, he doesn't have great takedown defense. Michael Venom Page does not have great takedown defense, so it wouldn't be difficult for Ian Gary to dominate that fight on the ground. I mean, if it's smart, I think that's what he would do. Because a lot of people, I think, especially because Ian Gary is talking about, I'm going to knock you out, I'm going to knock you out. I think if he's smart, he's going to wrestle, and if he does that, he is going to actually win this fight. That's one of the things that I considered. Also, Michael Venom Page is like 37 years old. I mean, it's really challenging to actually overlook that at welterweight against a young, hungry prospect who's trying to prove everyone wrong, because it's not a secret that people don't like Ian Gary. So obviously he has a chip on his shoulder, you know, and he knows he cannot lose. Like, losing is not an option for him because of the fact that people hate him so much. You know, he knows everyone is expecting him or is waiting for him to fail, and because of that, he's going to be extra motivated to actually win this one. So there are a variety of other elements that I considered, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, it's a coin flip, but there are so many elements that tell me, you know, who if the fight is even on the feet, who's most likely going to win the grappling exchanges? It's going to be Ian Gary. If they get tired, whose youth is going to be there, to support him towards a decision? It's Ian Gary. There are so small things that made me to actually reconsider my decision to actually go with Michael Venom Page. But I mean, it is possible he could win. So an upset is possible here, but I don't know, man. I think Ian Gary is going to win this one. I don't know how. He might submit if he doesn't wrestle a lot. Then decision, but I'm leaning more towards a submission. Um, On to the next one. My subscribers and I went with Ian Gary. I don't know if I actually made that clear. Myro Bueno Silva versus Macy Chiasson. Myra Bueno Silva is a minus 190 slight favorite, and Macy Chiasson is a plus 160 slight underdog. How many have lost money? Okay. Um, I don't know, man. My official pick and my subscribers' official pick is Mayra Bueno Silva. But about one fight and then come back and look like an amateur in the next. Mayra Bueno Silva went and submitted Holy Home, got a title shot, and lost to Raquel Pennington. Right? Like, I mean, like, I don't even know what to say to that, man. So it's a little bit tricky with women's MMA. I mean, Mayra Bueno Silva should dominate this fight, but Macy Chiasson, I mean, I don't think she's like a walkover. She was winning that fight against Irene Aldana. So until she got liver kicked, she looks good. I honestly don't know, man. It comes down to who shows up on that particular night. I feel a little bit more confidently with Mayra Bueno Silva. I think she's a little bit more tested. She has that 5 rounds in her pocket. I think she's experienced enough adversity that she can grow from. I think she's a little bit more well rounded on the ground, and I think she can strike with Macy Chesan. Obviously, the reach and height might be a factor to some extent, but um, I'm leaning more towards Mayra Bueno Silva. But like I said, man, it's women's MMA, so it's a coin flip. Just flip a coin and decide who you want to go with. Don't, like I always say, and like I said at the beginning of this stream, if you value your money, don't participate in betting on women's MMA, man. Like you're going to lose money. Because I just made an example with Mayra Bueno Silva. Anyway, on to the next one. Um, Anthony Smith versus where are the odds here? Okay, there are no odds for whatever reason on this particular card. Yeah, there are no odds, but I think it's a coin flip. So whoever is the favorite, I think an upset is slightly possible because Roman Dolite has a little bit more power. I heard and I saw some few things that he was training for a fight at middleweight. Um, on the other hand, Anthony Smith has had high level experience against the likes of John Jones, you know, former champions. He's fought a lot of former champions. He just derailed a hyped prospect, an undefeated prospect. Even though he derailed it because the guy was not using his brain, he just went into that submission. Like he helped Anthony Smith to get the submission. So I don't know how much stock I'll put into that, but nonetheless, Anthony Smith has been a lightweight all his career. He knows like his cardio won't be affected. There are so many elements to consider here. So I think each fighter has an advantage, but I'm going to lean more towards Anthony Smith's experience. I'm personally more excited for Ortega versus Lopes. Yeah, that's the fight I'm going to be doing next. So yeah, Anthony Smith. I think my subscribers and I went with Anthony Smith, but um, like I said, it's a coin flip, so an upset is possible here. So yeah, on to the next one. Um, Brian Ortega versus Diego Lopez. Brian Ortega is a plus 120 near even. Diego Lopez is a minus 145 slight favorite. Um, this is another tricky one, right? Um, I have the same feelings about Diego Lopez, but they are not as worrying as the first two. I mentioned Jin Silva, I mentioned Ray Tseruya, and I actually mentioned that I didn't know how I felt about their lack of experience in the UFC, right? Um, I feel a little bit like that, but after the fight with Movsar Evloev, Diego Lopez has proven he has cardio and he's still very dangerous even in the final rounds, even in the third round. I mean, because he was throwing submissions against Movsar Evloev even in the third round, and he came in on short notice and he was still dangerous in the third round. I don't know if Brian Ortega will be able to survive that kind of um, onslaught from Diego Lopez constantly trying to submit him. Like it's kind of like the fight between Mohamed Naimov versus Diego Lima. What's his name? What's I forgot his name, but Lima, something Lima. The fight that happened last week. Mohamed Naimov was actually winning that fight, but because of the pressure and because of the constant attempts to submit and to get a, he actually eventually lost and he got submitted in the third round. I think that's what's going to happen. One of two things is going to happen here. Diego Lopez is going to knock out Brian Ortega on the feet in the first round, or he's going to overwhelm him so much that he'll end up getting a submission late, maybe in the third round. But I'm leaning more towards a first round knockout, especially because obviously I'm not going to compare Diego Lopez with Yair Rodriguez, but I mean Brian Ortega was getting beat up in the first round against Yair Rodriguez in his last fight. So if he lets that many shots land on him, he's not very good defensively. So if he lets that many shots land on his face, he's going to get knocked out. And I think Diego Lopez is fast enough and is good enough on the feet to actually knock him out. So my prediction is he's going to actually knock out Brian Ortega in the first round. Um, I mean, anything is possible, but here I'm pretty confident that Diego Lopez is going to win this fight. I would be worried about him facing a high level fighter. But I mean, Movsar Evloev is now in the top five, if I'm not mistaken, and he came in on short notice and gave him like the fight of his life. So I mean, technically, he has fought a top five contender because I mean the fight with Movsar Evloev I think was like 3 fights ago or 4 fights ago, so that wasn't that long ago. I have Ortega subbing Lobes. So Lobes has great jiu-jitsu, but I think Ortega is much. Nah, it's not too much of a dog. The question that you have to ask yourself is he Movsar Evloev was tired in that fight, and I know it's MMA math, but I don't think even if they grapple and there are grappling exchanges, I don't think Brian Ortega will have more cardio than Diego Lopez. I honestly disagree with that. Let me see. Let me reply to your comment. Ortega has no quit in him. If Lopes wins, it'll be by KO or sub. Yeah, that's how I see the fight going. I think it's going to be a KO or late submission. If Tracy is there, there's no chance Ortega loses. Exes, they are very big motivators. Anyway, my subscribers and I went with Diego Lopez. I don't think an upset is possible here. I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't think an upset is possible here. On to the main event. Um, Alex Pereira versus Jiri Prohaska. Alex Pereira is a minus 165 slight favorite, and Jiri Prohaska is a plus 140 slight underdog. An upset is highly possible here. Um, who you have co-main? Um, I'll Jaws. Okay, Jaws. I will respond to you because I know you are a regular watcher of the channel. I've seen you a couple of times. I think via finish. That's who I picked to actually win in the co-main event, and I feel pretty confidently. If not the first round TKO, then late submission. I see Jiri versus Alex going the same as their first fight. Jiri is terrible striking defense. Yeah, I agree. That's what I was coming to. I feel like it's a coin flip for me because I mean, age doesn't matter as much at the light heavyweight, but we have to take into consideration a couple of other factors. Camp, that's the first issue. So between the both of them, who do you think is in gym every single day training? Between Alex Pereira and Jiri Prohaska, it's most likely Jiri Prohaska. Alex Pereira is enjoying the money he has. I heard he was on vacation doing sponsorship tours and all these type of things. So he obviously every athlete is always exercising and training, but I'm talking about intense training. I think that favors Jiri Prohaska. So if 2 rounds, I think it's gonna be a problem for him. And also, when we look at the first fight, which I thought Jiri Prohaska would actually win, and even in my analysis, I had this fight 50-50, and I still feel that way